Hi everyone, thanks for joining us today. It's the first webinar of 2012 and by the looks of it we've got a great turnout, so thanks very much to everyone who's logged in. Just a couple of pointers to start with. Remember, if you've got any questions throughout the webinar, we can answer them. I can answer them directly using the chat box on GoToMeeting. If you just type in your question there, I will either answer it directly or put it to Martin, who can answer it live. If you've not downloaded the software already, the Shaderlight software, you can go to our website and download the 14-day trial from there. Most of you, but looking at the names on the attendee list today, have downloaded it and tried it already, so thanks very much for that. Two pieces of news before we start. Firstly, the 25% discount we've been running since December comes to an end this Friday, so make sure you don't miss out. If you are interested in purchasing a license of Shaderlight Pro, just enter the code DEC promo at the checkout, and you'll automatically get that discount applied. You'll see that discount code on the buy page too, so all very easy to do that. Secondly, we've got some exciting news about a new release coming up. We're in the final stages of beta testing version 2.1. Obviously, we launched version 2 back in September, so a few months after we've got a new release and with some nice new updates for everyone. And that's going to be available to download next week. As well as the regular performance improvements, we've introduced some cool new lighting features as well. So today's webinar will give you a bit of an introduction to some of those. The 3D models that we've included in the new release are from Visa Lighting, an American company who develop light fixtures. We've put together some models with the correct lighting information, so you can import them directly into your SketchUp model and render them in Shaderlight. So some really cool new features there. You'll hear more about that next week when we launch that. So anyway, that's enough from me. Let's get down to business, and I'll hand you over to Martin for today's webinar.
That's great. Thanks very much, Kate. And I'd also like to, as always, extend the welcome to everybody to the webinar. We really do appreciate you attending, and we always like to stress that feedback and any comments or suggestions that you give us through the webinar, they do make it to our development team, and we always talk about this, and we want to continuously improve Shaderlight. As you can tell, like Kate mentioned, we've got that new release coming out next week. So today's webinar, we're going to go through, we've been sort of looking at what webinars we've done in the past, and as we've got a lot of new people that are attending the webinar, we're going to have a look at some of the lighting aspects and talk about what lighting is doing and try and get a bit more of an understanding. It's probably, it's a popular question we get on support just regarding some of those different lighting techniques. So we're going to have a look at those. And again, as always, we want to keep it interactive. So, ask away on those questions. If any points, you want me to run over them again, just please feel free to ask away. The questions all get recorded, so if you don't get an answer during the webinar, you will get an answer afterwards from the support team. So, we will get through to your questions. So lighting in Shaderlight and in SketchUp, and we're going to certainly look at sort of both of these as we go through. And it's really, ultimately that thing that will make the difference between, a good sort of render and ultimately a bad render. But it's also that one part where you can look at something and say, something's not right. So, that your eyes are very good at spotting something that isn't right, and, you will really get that feeling for it. So, we're going to have a look at the different lighting options and show you the techniques and how we set them up and we go through, but also hopefully give you an understanding of what the software and lights are actually doing. So, when you understand that, it will make life a lot easier. So, the scene that we've got up at the moment, this is a model of a kitchen that's come from, one of our American customers. And, ultimately, the lighting that we've got there, we really get that feel for the daytime lighting. And this is using the skylight portals that we have in the software. But it's also very quick and simple to flick straight to a nighttime lighting. So, you know, just getting that feeling, getting those lights in that scene, doing what we want them to. So, you know, it's really, that's what we're going to be running through, and just looking at those differences and the setting up. Okay, so let's get into SketchUp and Shaderlight here. So, first of all, I'm just rendering this simple material ball here. And if I look in my Shaderlight render settings, I'm just rendering this using the SketchUp Sunlight. And we can see the shadow there behind you know, our material ball. Now, the SketchUp Sunlight, what it is, it's an infinitely small point of light, and the position is then controlled in the SketchUp shadow settings. So, you know, we know that if we change the time of day, the shadow position changes. So what's happening here is the single point of light is moving around the scene and moving around SketchUp to produce those shadows to be in the correct places. Now, if we turn this and we can see, you know, we're fairly early in the morning here, or if we come sort of later in the evening, we get those long shadows. It's in the correct place. But as I mentioned, this light is just a small point of light. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to select my material here. And I'm just going to change this in my Shaderlight material editor to a perfect mirror. And we can't see the point of light in the mirror because, as I said, it's an infinitely small point. So, you know, in using the mirror material, that's why we're not getting that. Whereas if I go to a polished finish, there we go, we can then see that point of light that's just spreading out just because we're, you know, we're not in that perfect mirror now. So, you know, that's the first thing you need to understand, that Shaderlight, that SketchUp Sunlight, just that point of light. This also means because it's a small point of light, the shadow is never going to differ from just looking sort of with that hard edge. You know, when we put that in the lower position, yeah, the shadow intensity changes, it becomes slightly lighter. But we always get the hard edge shadow, and that's simply because the SketchUp Sunlight is that single point of light. So, extending on from this, in our lighting options in the Shaderlight menu, if I turn on the physical sky, now what we're doing is, this is a different type of effect, and we can see now we're actually getting the reflections in our material ball here. Now, if I go to our SketchUp shadows and I change the time here, what we're going to do, you know, we see the light changing in the reflections here. So now I can actually set this up if I change this to a mirror, and this will really highlight what's going on. So now we can see the sun, but we can also see the color of the sky of the lighting in this the physical sky here. So if I do change this to evening, we're going to see that the color will actually change, and you know, we're now getting sort of that sunset feeling, and you know, we start getting sort of that redness around the horizon. And again, if I go to dawn, you know, we're going to get the correct colors of the sky, and you know, the earlier I pick, the more sort of noticeable there. So we've got that very early sky. But what we can also see is we've got the very long shadow, but this is also giving us a soft shadow as well, which is what you will get with that sort of morning and evening light. So you know, if we did go for sort of midday in July, then you know, we just get that very dark, hard shadow, and you know, we just get the sun in the sky almost straight above us, and just with the blue sky there. So the physical sky system, it's a very powerful feature that you know, we've developed in there to help with that lighting, and you know, that really just sort of helps you get the effect that you're after there. Now, at the moment, you've probably seen the background setting, and we're just looking at the SketchUp background. So, we're just matching exactly the same color as in SketchUp here. Now, if I change that to our lighting environment, we're now looking at the sky that we're reflecting there. So, that is a good way of just matching the feel. And, that's also a useful technique, particularly when you're rendering an exterior, is trying to match the background to your model. It's matching those colors. That's something that is really sort of worth spending a little bit of time on. So that's the physical sky system there. That just drawing the sky to be the correct color and the correct sun position for the time of day. Now, taking that a little bit further, and the next couple of options we've got here. We've got one called Preset, and the other one is called Move. Now, both of these are HDR lighting. So, and we class this as image-based lighting. So, if I go into Preset here, we've got 4 different settings, and we've got business park daytime, golf course evening, London morning, and a meeting room. So these are 360-degree images taken using a very special camera, and the camera gathers the lighting information while it's actually taking the photo. Now, a JPEG, you may know that between white and black with a JPEG has 256 steps. So that's all there is between white and black. Whereas with a HDR image, there's over a sort of a million steps. So you've got the exposures that control, and it gathers all of the lighting information as well. So it can work out that the sun is so many thousand points brighter than the rest of the light in the scene. So if I choose this London morning scene here, this is going to change our lighting, and we also get the sun coming in from Tower Bridge here, and this can be sort of seen as in our image, and I can rotate this round here. So I can rotate our background actually around our model here. So there we go, we've got the sun on our left hand side here, and that sun is casting our shadow. So depending on the light field, so if I choose golf course evening, the shadows will change again, like the physical sky. You will get softer shadows. This one we've got a hazy sun here, and we get those very soft shadows. So using those HDRs, and there's quite a sort of a few here from Moof as well. These different images, and these are all to give different sort of lighting effect and feel to your scene. So and on the Moof website, you'll see there's many more HDRs that you can actually sort of download and purchase. So what I'm going to show you very quickly, I just want to show you an HDR image in a viewer. And if I just come into here, now I've got one of the HDRs that we actually use in Shaderlight here. And we can see there we've got the 360-degree image, and we can see the whole thing just sort of laid out flat here, and there's a reflection of the camera that we used to take this. Now, what's special about this, as I mentioned, if we look down here, it tells you about sort of the different colors and values, and as we come sort of towards the sun, we start seeing sort of values certainly get a lot higher in those scores on the points. And I can also turn down the actual exposure on this as well. So if I just look at the sun here, I can turn down the exposure of the photo, and now we can really see there as we sort of head towards the center of the sun. So if we look at the color values here, they're all noughts and ones, and then suddenly in the sun, we're 1,000 times brighter than we are on the grass. So this is very much what's special about those HDRs. It actually knows about this lighting information. So, you know, it's they are very good to use, and you can combine them to use with your own background. The reason, you know, these are called daytime and evening and morning, the way they are, is so we've given you enough to match with a photo that you may have taken. And we can just, if we select a custom background here, you know, we can then just browse to any photo that you actually have on your computer. And you know, you can just use this and then use this to match the you know, the actual lighting. So, you know, I've just got a photo here and I can bring that in, and you know, this works quite well just with the trees in the background there. My background is probably slightly brighter. You know, you can then spend the time and really sort of fine-tune those values to match your lighting, so you can really make that look like it is sitting in the background there. So, you know, that's on the external lighting. It's sort of well worth thinking about using those different sort of effects, depending on what sort of really you're after. Now, you don't just use those on external lighting. Now, if we come to an interior scene here, now if I just render this quickly. Now, what we've got here, you know, this is just a very simple box, and you know, just there we go. So we've just got a room with a window in it, and the reason that we're getting the effect at the moment that we're seeing inside the room is that, you know, at the moment the lights are simply coming into the room and hitting the wall. Now I'm just going to turn on shadows, and there we go. So the light is coming in through the window and it's hitting the wall. It's not bouncing, it's literally just coming in, and we can see around the back of the sphere here and on the red wall, that is pure black. So, you know, no light is making it behind that sphere. And the reason we get these speckles, and we call this noise, is that all of the light from the outside is trying to sort of come in through the window here, but we're losing a lot of this light energy. So what we need to do is basically give the light energy a sign to go through, and you know, we want this to basically say to the light energy, come into the room and you can't get out. And this is in our light menu, and this is what we call the skylight portal. So this skylight portal, and when you're rendering an interior, you really want to seal your window with a skylight portal. Now you can see the orange line in the middle of my skylight portal. That's the direction. And you want to make sure you get that pointing the correct way. So I want my light coming into the room. So we've now put that portal on the window, so we've sealed my room now. And we can now see that, again, just where I keep clicking on my scene, I must have switched off shadows on there. So we bring that in, we get a much softer lighting, we get less noise. And you know, while that's refining, that gets better and better. So this light is coming in from the outside. So at the moment we're using the SketchUp sunlight. So if I change this to physical sky, we're going to see that the colours will change, and we're also going to get a little bit of warmth from the actual scene there. So you know, we can see some colours coming in from there as well. Now we're still seeing sort of the black around the back of the sphere and in the shadow there and this wall, and that's not how, you know, ultimately it's going to be in real life. The reason for this is that, as I said, the light is now coming in through the portal and hitting the wall, and again, you know, light in the real world bounces around the room. So this is controlled in our settings, and at the moment we're rendering the scene as an exterior. Now, if I tell it to render as an interior, this turns on what's called global illumination. Now, the simple explanation of global illumination is the light comes in the room and bounces. So now it's picking up a lot of the light from the red wall onto the back of our sphere, so it's no longer that pure black. So, you know, we haven't got the pure black colours there as well. Now, people that are familiar with Shaderlight, you know, they may have noticed the one of our improvements in 2.1 Now, previously we've had a problem when bringing direct sunlight into a room, and we can see that now. That's completely different. Our developers have been busy for some time, and they've rewritten sort of the way our illumination works. So this is something that has improved massively. So that's a good part on that one. So we bring that light coming in. But what I want to say is that the physical sky is what we're using to light this room. So if I change this to one of my presets like Business Park Daytime, this is then what we're using to light the room. So now our sun position has changed, and I can rotate my environment around the outside, and we're going to get a completely different lighting feel. Because ultimately this is where the changes of the light are rotating around us on the outside. So there we go. So it looks completely different. The sunlight's coming in from a different direction. So just by changing these environments will also give your interior renders a different feel. So very much depending on sort of the effect that you're after. So the London morning we know was very blue, and we've got that direct sunlight there. We can rotate that round, and it's just giving us a different feel for the scene. And even just by rotating them, we can then see those different effects that we can create. So those lighting presets, don't just think of those for your external scenes. They work very well on your interiors as well, and they're really going to sort of get that realism sort of happening in your scenes there. So yeah, it's something that really worth understanding, how that does make your scene look quite different. Okay, so we've had one question in that I can just add at the end of this, and yeah, the question on this one is that is Shaderlight multi-threaded? Now, Shaderlight is 64-bit and fully multi-threaded. Now, this is something you may see on forums saying Shaderlight can't be 64-bit because SketchUp is 32-bit. It's like, well, okay, we're integrated into SketchUp, but we are our own program. So, yeah, we're fully multi-threaded and fully 64-bit. So, we're happy to run on that one.
Martin, there's just another quick question on using SketchUp Sky and whether that imparts any colour into a scene in the way an HDR would.
Okay, the SketchUp sunlight does not impart any colour. It's a white point of light. So, where we're getting sort of the nice colours here from like the HDR, if I go to our SketchUp sunlight and, we get into, hopefully we're in sort of the right position, we can see just it's white light. So yeah, whatever time of day you pick, it will be the same white light, the same brightness and intensity as well. So
so the only colour in that scene, Martin, is generated by the red wall and GI.
Yeah, that's bouncing off that back wall, the global illumination. So yeah, that's that's where the colours in this room are coming from. So yeah, that's yeah, that point of light is just that white point of light. Okay, so that's those different lighting environments, and we can see that we have those different ones there, and we also have the chalk render as well, which I will show you at the end. But yeah, if you do go to say a company like Moof and you buy a HDR, if you use custom, then you can use the HDR to light your scene that you may have purchased. So yeah, that's the option there if you do purchase.
There's a quick question here, Martin, about animations and how GI is calculated when you're rendering an animation.
When you're rendering an animation, basically what's happening is, yeah, the GI is calculated in each scene. The GI is accurate enough that from frame to frame, you really shouldn't notice sort of the difference of a flickering effect, which can be visible if the GI isn't up to it, basically. So you should be okay with that, and particularly, you know, in 2.1 with the sort of the new features, you know, that has helped that a lot as well. But yeah, you know, GI and animation work absolutely fine. So yeah, that's not a problem. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is we're going to actually, one thing I just thinking I do want to mention as well regarding the lighting environments. Now, you know, I've got just a very simple office building here. Now, those lighting environments, as we said, you know, you pick up the colors and things like that, but they pick up reflections. We're in that 360-degree photo, and we can see in our windows of this office here, the trees are reflecting from that 360-degree photo. So if I do rotate my HDR, we'll see the position there move, and we can now get you know, a different sort of set of reflections in there. We've got sort of a large tree in the middle of here. If I change that around completely different direction, we're probably going to go into the shadows here. But now we've just got those small trees. So it picks up those reflections as well. So yeah, you know, it's not just the colors, it's reflections from that. So you know, that looks good if you use something like water. You know, that's brilliant on those as well. So when you know, with regards to sort of the different lighting options, you know, we've looked at those daytime options and bringing those in. But as always, if you know, if you have got any questions on those, ask away. But what we're going to look at now are you know, artificial lighting. So artificial lighting, you know, we want to light this nighttime scene that we've got here. So you know, we can see that all we've got at the moment is just a background image outside of our window. So you know, this isn't sort of lighting the scene much. We've got a very sort of small amount of sort of dark light coming into the room. But yeah, so lighting the scene, you know, it's we'll have a look as we go through this. Now, we have our lighting option here. So you know, we click on our lighting tool, and we can see the different lights that we have available. And we looked at the Skylight portal, and you know, so hopefully we have an understanding of that, and you know, how powerful that is for sort of the daytime images. But you know, we're going to have a look and talk through some of these different lights and what they do. So the first one we're going to look at is a point light, and a point light is a point of light that shines light in all directions. So if I just want to put this into our scene, now I'm just going to put this roughly around this light fitting at the top here, just so we can you know, just give our room some light. There we go. So I've just got that point light, so that is now shining light in all directions. Now we can see it's, you know, we've got sort of quite a bright light in that room, and you know, we've got the black shadow there, and I simply need to turn on to render as an interior, and that's going to calculate this the global illumination, the GI, and our light's going to bounce around the room. It's going to give our room sort of, there we go, sort of the more sort of correct light underneath the shadows there. Now, the exposure levels here, we can see that you know, we have an auto exposure tool, and by default the auto exposure is selected, and the auto exposure works in a very similar way to your digital camera. When you take an image with your digital camera, it tries to compensate and say, okay, you know, you want to make it a daytime image. And so this is what's happening, you know, it's brightening up the scene to say, okay, you know, this is sort of roughly about a daytime image. And we can, you know, just make changes to the actual exposure level, and it doesn't re-render. We can see that makes those changes straight away. Now, we're still working with our auto exposure on, but you know, we've now just turned down our auto exposure as well. What we can do, you know, we can turn our auto exposure off, And at the moment, we're set to 0, so we're at quite a dark level of exposure. So if I sort of go up to 7, this will now hold us in that position, so our light doesn't change there. And the reason for this is that again, a popular question that when people put lights into a room and they change the brightness, they say, well, actually the render doesn't change. And the reason for that is that the auto exposure is basically taking over. Now, I can show you an example of this. So we've got our point light in our room, and if I just turn my auto exposure back on here, so we've got our point light in the room, and it's at 125 candela. Now, I always explain at this stage, 125 candela is about the equivalent of a 100-watt light bulb. So that just gives you sort of a good reference point. So if I change that down to sort of 65 candela, we'll see in our render that we'll probably notice a subtle change, but very little. Now if I change that to 1000 candela, and we have a look in our render, so there we go, it got very slightly brighter. Now ultimately what I've done, I've just times my light bulb by 10, but the auto exposure is now taking control. So if I turn that off and I change my exposure back to 7 where we were before, we now can see we've got seriously bright light coming from our room. So now if I change that back down to 125, we now see that lighting change.
Quick question here, Martin, is whether you can change the dimensions of a point light. So if you're putting it inside a small object.
A point light is an infinitely small point of light that just shines light in all directions. There's no volume to a point light. It just shines light in all directions. If you put it inside an object, that object will cast shadows depending on what type of material it is. So,
another quick one. Do we need to add a skylight portal into a nighttime render?
If you have got a nighttime environment, a HDR environment, or perhaps even a blue sort of night sky environment, it will give your room that blue lighting. But to be honest, as soon as you put any lights inside your room, it kind of wipes out that effect. So it very much depends on what room you're going for. If you're going for a room that you really want to show up that's lit perhaps by a nighttime sort of moon, then yes, you will need that. But in this particular scene, because I'm putting lights into it, no, we don't need to use those. Okay, so we can see my point light there, and I'm just going to turn that down. So I just want that to be sort of a darker light in the room, just to give sort of some ambient lights. So the next light we can look at is a spotlight. Now the spotlight, we can see, we have the same intensity as we did of our point light, but now we also have the spread. Now, if you think of a spotlight, at a theatre, you've got that control so that you can really pinpoint that down to a single person, or you can spread that over what you require. So that's just controlled in degrees here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put this onto our desk lamp here. Now, putting in a point light was one click, because you simply choose where you want to place that point of light. Whereas a spotlight is 2 clicks. You need to choose where that light is going to be, and that's our first click. So now we can see that we've put in our click here, just choosing where that light is coming from. And the next click is the direction of that light. And we can see there is if I go up that wall, we're pointing it at the wall, and we can move that round and point that where we want to. I would recommend I just draw a small line underneath the geometry, which helps really define where you actually, the direction of that light. It just makes it easy to select. So we can now see, there we go, I have my point light, spotlight, sorry, shining onto our desk there with that circle of light. And I can control my angle, so if I want that more general, over the desk. I can choose that as sort of 80 degrees, and we can turn that right up if we want to. There we go, so 120 degrees, and now we're going to cover a lot of the desk in that light, and we're starting to hit the wall as well. So we can see I've tried to match the similar shape to the cover of that desk lamp. So that's the spotlight there. And if we did want to make a change to the color of that light, it's exactly the same as the material editor in SketchUp. So if I just choose my HSB, my hue, saturation, brightness control here, I can then say, well, actually I'd like my light to perhaps have a yellow tinge to it. So I can just choose that color, and there we go, our light updates. So that comes into the scene straight away here. So it's nice and simple to update those as well. Okay, so now we've got our sort of ceiling light there, and we've got our downlighter, and we've got these 3 lights that are shining to show up our painting on the wall here. Now, when you're working with components, this is really powerful feature, because if I put a light into one of those components, it's going to appear in the other components as well. Again, this is a question we get asked a lot, and it's really the best way to work, because some rooms may have 25, 30, 40 downlights, and you don't want to put these in one by one. So by putting them in the component also means that any changes that I make to it on color, they're going to come across the system as well. So I'm going to bring into this end light here, and again we can see I've just drawn a line underneath my light here, and this is going to be an IES web profile light. Now, an IES web profile light, it really sounds sort of quite confusing sometimes, and it's worth understanding what the IES light is actually doing. Now, an IES light is a virtual light profile that comes from the manufacturers. So I've just brought in the IES, and we can see that's coming to all 3 of these here. And because I'm working inside a component, I'm just going to just re-export my scene, because then that will update here. And an IES light profile is a file, as I mentioned, from the manufacturers. So this is going to bring in a default profile, which is there we go, we can see very bright. It's like a point light. But if I choose an IES light, and these ones have come from manufacturers, and these particular lights have come from Philips. And if I choose one of these lights, so I choose this LR4 light. If we look at the light here, this now should certainly dim down, and we can see we actually get the pattern of that light coming from that IES file. But if I choose a different file, so I'm now going to choose this iColor light here, watch this light change here. It will actually change the shape, so we get that that brightness changes there as well. So as I mentioned, the IES file is like the real world light profile that's in a file. So they're free, they're completely free to download from lighting manufacturers, as I said, like GE or Saucony, Philips. They are completely free to use. And I think on here as well, if I show you this JPEG that I've done, these are 5 different IES profiles that have come from manufacturers. So it's not just a matter of saying, well, okay, it's a bit more spread like the spotlight. You do actually get the patterning from the bulb. And those IES lights are very powerful, really worth using. So they really good on that one there. And we can now see our render there. So we've now got that light. We can see some of the banding from that light, and we've got that on our picture. And we can start getting an idea of how our scene is looking and the different lights we have in our scene here. So it's we can see how our scene is sort of changing quite quickly here. And what I just want is on our screen here. Now, of course, computer monitor actually gives off lights. So I'm going to select the material there. Now, if I select the material that is on the screen here, and we can actually see it's a screenshot of the scene we're currently working in. So, we've got that material, just a custom material in SketchUp. And I can set this material to be a self-illuminating material. So if I just choose self-illuminating from our material editor here, and I can actually set the brightness up to say, well, I'd like that to be as bright as an LCD monitor there. And we're going to see that our screen becomes nice and bright, so it looks like that self-illuminating material.
A few questions have come in. Firstly, are Shaderlight light sources affected by the colour of an object in front of them? So if you have a light source inside a transparent coloured sphere, does that affect the light that comes out of the sphere?
Yes, is the simple answer to that one. Yeah, you make something a red transparent object, yeah, you get red light from the other side. So you can actually create some quite nice effects from that.
If you want to view this light source in a spotlight, is there any other way except putting a point light in there?
Viewing the actual light source, if you wanted to make it look like there was a light bulb glowing there inside your light, what you would need to do is model that light bulb and set that to be a self-illuminating material, and then that would look like a light bulb.
And how can you make a spotlight softer, like a Fresnel?
The spotlight, basically that's controlled just by sort of the spread and the intensity. There's no control over the softness. That's something that we are looking at as a future control in Shaderlight. With regards to the IES files, yeah, that's built in with the file, and you've really got the controls on those IES files there. Now, it is worth just mentioning now, I use an IES viewer for all of my IES files, and this is free software that is available to download, and this looks at an IES file and it will actually show you what it's going to look like. So there we go, we can see the banding on there, and also you can actually look at it, how it's going to look if you move that light closer to a wall or further away from a wall. So we can actually see that light fading away there. So really, if for the light, for the softness, then yeah, your IES lights are going to give you the ultimate realistic looking light. But yeah, with regards to sort of softening the edge on the spotlight, that's just really going to be controlled by the intensity and the spread.
A couple more IES questions. Does that IES viewer, is that for Windows and Mac or just Windows?
The honest answer to that one is I don't know. I would need to find that one out. I'm sorry about that. I've never been asked that question, and I will find out, and we will answer the person that has asked that question. So yeah, I will find out on that one.
Okay, and lastly, a nice lead into what we're doing for 2.1. Where can you download different types of IES lights, and how do you import them into your SketchUp scene?
Okay, yeah. So the IES files, if you just simply search, and I'm not allowed to, we're not allowed to distribute particular IES files because they are copyright of the companies. But if you just go into Google and search for IES files, and you should see that you'll see some lighting manufacturers like Visa Lighting have you know, they give you IES files. And then when you're inside an IES light, so if I select my IES light there, it's simply a matter of saying, well, browse to the file that you've downloaded. And these are all ones that I've downloaded. So, you know, all of these just IES files, and they can then be imported in there. Now, as you know, Kate was also saying, the with regards to sort of different lighting options as well, this is something that you know, we have looked at in 2.1. And if I go into our plugins menu here and you know, I just look at the Shaderlight for SketchUp, I can see we have a light fixture library. And this light fixture library is going to open my browser, and it's going to go to our warehouse, and we've created some lighting fixtures at the moment, and you know, as I mentioned, these are sort of Visa lighting that we've worked with. So, you know, we've got these lighting fixtures, and what we've done is we've set these up with the correct materials and also with the correct lights for these lighting. So if I go into my components menu here, and we have a look at the Shaderlight library, and you can just search in the bar there for Shaderlight library, and we have our replace me library, but we also have our light fixtures. So if I come into my Visa lighting light fixtures here, and I can choose like this this desk lamp here, and if I bring that desk lamp, there we go, onto the end of my table there. Now this is going to bring in, and it's also going to bring in all of the lighting information as well with that model. There we go. So, you know, we've got the lighting information for that model with these from that warehouse there. So yeah, these Visa lighting, we've all set these up with the correct IES files. So again, I'm just, you know, if I bring in another light and I put that onto the wall there, you know, we've got all these different light fixtures that we can just bring in, and they snap to the wall automatically. So you know, I could put them on this wall or the end wall, and they would just come in. And these are all using those IES, so you know, we can see the pattern of the light that one shines off. This is quite a big light for this particular room, but you know, we've got all those different lights now, and you know, these are going to be growing over time.
Important to mention there that Martin's using 2.1, which is the software releasing next week. So you won't be able to do this quite yet in the current version that you have. You have to wait till next week before you can download that bit of software. But as you can see, it's a bit of a sneak preview of what's to come. So.
Okay, so just finishing off on our scene here, we can see our different lighting. So the only thing I want to do now, I want to get a bit of lighting coming off our monitor. You know, we've got the glow from our monitor using the self-illuminating materials. But the last light that we've got in our profiles here is an area light. Now, an area light is a rectangle of light, and if I just draw a rectangle over the computer screen, again, keep an eye on that orange line. It's the direction of the light there. So that brings in this area light. And an area light, again, it's the same values, you know, the 125 candela, but this is now spread over this square. So, you know, we've got the brightness coming from that square now. So, sort of zooming out of here, you know, I can see that light coming from our computer screen. Now, what may help is if I actually come up to our ceiling light, and I've come out of the room a little too far here. Let me just zoom back in here. There we go. So I'm going to remove the point light here from the room, and so this is now only going to be lit using those 3 IES files on the wall. And now that really sort of shows, you know, our computer monitor just giving off that light, and our spotlight there as well. So okay, so yeah, so you know, we've got all our options there, and you know, that's just those different lighting effects that we can control. Okay, well, we've gone through you know, a lot of the aspects of lighting, and lighting is one of those things that you know, you'll see techniques that will work and different effects, but as always, if you do have any questions, you know, you can contact us on the support desk, which is support@artvps.com, and that's going to be up on a PowerPoint at the end. But we also have a number of videos available on the ArtVPS website as well. So, you know, we've got some more time for some more questions if you want to keep those coming in.
Quick one then. Well, I keep saying that to every question. Is it possible to create a tube light for Shaderlight, which you can draw like a easier line to illuminate linear spaces?
For a tubular light, the best way to create a tubular light is, again, the self-illuminating material, and then basically draw an area light, a long, thin, rectangular area light in front of that tubular material. And you can basically put those around one or two sides of that tube, and it will create the desired effect. Again, you know, that we're always looking at the lighting, and you know, the lighting option to be able to create like a neon light for that to emit light. You know, that's somewhere where we will be going in the future.
Okay, just having a quick look here. Do we have any examples of outdoor lighting, perhaps landscaped, backyard, or the like? We do have a large number of customers who use Shaderlight for landscape design and architecture. I'm not sure off the top of my head how many images we have on our gallery, but I know there's a number of case studies on the website. So if you head to the products area and look at the who uses it section, there's a number of case studies we've put together there. If you want to contact me directly and I can send you some images, just email me at kate@artvps.com and I can send you some examples of customers directly across there. Okay, I think that's probably about it, Martin. So,
okay, well, as we said, you know, until we finish on the the webinar, if any questions do come in, we will try and answer them as we go through.
Oh, a quick one. The IES viewer apparently is just for Windows, not the Mac.
Okay, that's great. I really appreciate someone finding that out before the end of the webinar. Yeah, you know, that's a real shame, and that was something I'll definitely mention in the future. But what I will do, I will also have a hunt around to see if there is a Mac option. You know, I use both a PC and Mac, so I generally use my PC. So yeah, but we will try and find out for that.
Okay. As Martin said, there's a whole bunch of information on the website, so head there for training videos or email support. The guys here will be happy to help you with any questions that you might have. Also, obviously, the forum is open for questions as well. So if you had any more specific training requirements, we do actually offer SketchUp and Shaderlight training. So if you or your team have, you know, specific requirements there, we can happily, you know, run a course for you, whether it's online or here in our office in Cambridge in the UK. So yeah, just contact training@artvps.com for more information about that. Lastly, just a quick note about the next webinar. Obviously, with the 2.1 release coming up next week, we'll be running a full 2.1 demo in a couple of weeks' time. So watch out for news of that next week. I'll be posting that on our Facebook and Twitter sites, so make sure you're registered there. And hopefully you can join us for the next webinar as well. Thanks for your time. Hope you've enjoyed what you've learned today. Remember, if you've got any images you want to send us, we love to see them, so make sure you